What's going on, everybody? What's up?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
We got a guest in the house. Yeah, I guess we alluded to it last week. I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, so I had forgotten. But
usually I can't either.
But we got our good buddy and crop insurance man, William Lee, in the house. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here, guys. I've been listening and kind of getting you into this podcast thing, and I thought, hey, might be fun.
Yep.
Look, well, we need another expert in the industry to come in here every now and then.
I don't know how much of an expert I am.
Well, you got a lot of background in it.
I do.
What's everybody drinking?
Man, we got the good stuff. Actually,
y'all went ahead and poured the Eagle Rare.
He brought the goods in, man. That is, I mean, you didn't know that was my go-to?
No, I did not.
Yeah, man, he had said he had some stuff he was going to bring for us, and he brought the Eagle Rare, and that is like the top of the list for me.
Well, I poured one before I walked in, and so
have you not had to try it yet?
I'm not drinking it yet, but I might as well. I'm in the family.
What are you drinking?
Buffalo Trace.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
yeah. This just blows Buffalo Trace out of the
well,
water.
I'm going to finish this one and pour one.
You've had it before, haven't you?
Oh yeah. I got a bottle. It's kind of a special occasion.
Yeah.
That's actually, my wife will not drink bourbon for the most part, but if I ever say like, hey, you want bourbon? She's like, I'll only drink Eagle Rare.
Yeah, that's good taste.
Yeah, like if we're out to eat or somewhere and we're at a nice restaurant, I'm going to get a bourbon, before we get dinner. I usually
order some Eagle.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a big bourbon connoisseur, and I got a good buddy of mine that's what he loves, Eagle Rares.
Yeah.
And I saw it at the store. I said, I got this. I know.
I was going to ask, what's your go-to?
Miller Lite.
Miller Lite, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Coors Light or Busch Light.
Yeah, I mean, man, I bet I could count almost count on both hands how many beers I drink in a year. But now if I had to count how much bourbon I consume, it'd be quite a bit more.
See, I'm the opposite. I told you the story about my kids saw me pouring a bourbon one night and they're like, you're going to Logan's? and I wasn't that night because that's just about the only time I pour bourbon. Not the only time, but I'm normally drink a beer or two with my supper and then that's it for me.
Yeah.
We drank some in, dark liquor when we were in college, and it does not go well when you consume large quantities of it.
Yeah.
So it kind of broke me of it. And,
beer's a little safer.
It is. It is.
It's harder to overdo it.
That is true. But I'm a good slow just sipper for the most part.
Yeah.
As I have matured, I have become that.
Yeah. Well, hey, before we get too deep, we need y'all to do a couple things. First, hit that like button, hit subscribe. Leave us a rating and a review, and submit your questions, anything you have. We always love to get y'all's questions at talkdirtpodcast.com on the contact page. And also, you can check out agzaga.com.
Yeah, check out agzaga. To use the discount code, 10% off, Talk Dirt, all caps, all one word.
Is the free shipping still going, or is that done?
I have not ordered anything from them. I think that ran through the end of December.
Okay.
So, yeah, but they're always running different promotions. Like I say, you can get the 10% off. They're starting to get things really ramped up for hay season.
Yeah.
So they got deals. I was actually on the site today, just kind of looking around. Of course, they got a big price break if you buy in bulk. But heck, it doesn't matter how big an order you got, you can get that 10% off using our code anytime.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out. They that's what it was. I think it was if you ordered a certain quantity of bayonet wrap, you actually got a free toolbox.
Oh, okay.
That was a bunch. It'd have to be somebody a lot bigger hay operation than me. But
yeah.
Is that rain?
I don't know. That's what I just heard. Is that rain? That is rain.
Mm-hmm.
What did I say?
I didn't even know it was supposed to rain tonight. I heard it.
Have you been living under a rock?
I knew it was going to rain tomorrow.
It was clear as a bell when I came in. I was looking at the stars.
Well, yeah, it's a small little cell. So if y'all can hear that, it'll.
Well, I think I'll be able to clean it up.
Okay.
So, but yeah, well, that's what while y'all were talking, I'm like, what the hell is that?
What can I hear? Yes. But yeah, we're expecting strong thunderstorms tonight.
Strong thunderstorms and like high gust of winds after midnight. And
see, I knew getting into the next tomorrow,
and then it's supposed to go on into tomorrow. Then the temperature's supposed to plummet.
Yeah. See, that's where I have been. Well, I guess to finish up, go to agzaga.com, use the code TalkDirt, all one word, all caps. But I've been trying to get my track hoe kind of put back together just because I knew one is about to pour down rain, and then it's going to be just brutal. And it's supposed to snow on Monday.
Sunday into Monday, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think I saw Tuesday, like the high is 17.
yeah.
That's terrible.
16 is what my phone's saying right here.
The low at one point was -3. I think it's come up a little.
They're not showing anything below 0 currently. 3 on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Tuesday, the high of 16, low of 3.
You know, I actually kind of like it when it gets like that. The only thing I don't like is having to chop ice stuff for the cows.
I hate, because a lot of times our snow starts off.
Rain.
It rains for like 2 hours, then it starts to sleeten in kind of the wintry mix, and then it slowly, turns into a little bit of snow. And just the animals get soaking wet.
Yep.
And of course, then it gets cold enough, the ground gets frozen, and you're okay until it starts thawing out. But I think this one's going to be better because this rain's going to move through.
Hey, I want to tell you, that makes me think of something funny before we get into this. You talking about the animals. So my dog now is an inside dog. Bear stays inside all the time. But Bear was an outside dog for 10 years.
Yeah.
So he's 11 years old. For 10 years, he was an outside dog. He stayed right out there. I got like an igloo type house for him. And in the wintertime, I just pack a bunch of hay in there.
Sure.
And he was happy as could be. He's a chocolate lab, hefty dog. But he even wanted to be outside. Like, because we would bring him in the house if it started to get real cold. And he would be like at the door wearing out. He wanted to be back outside. Well, I say all that to say it was funny. Saw on Facebook the other day, and people get so bent out of shape.
I saw the same thing.
It said, if your dog or something is outside in this weather, I hate you, and I want you to know. Like, I hate you, and I mean, that.
And I mean, I saw several people that like shared it that I knew, and I was like, I had labs that stayed outside their whole life. And we had a border collie that was stayed outside, and just the same thing. When you brought him inside, like when it was like super duper cold, he would just pace and just
wanted to be back outside.
He hated it.
Well, and they mean that even if they had a doghouse. Like,
I mean, it lit because some people commented. I did see a couple where some people commented, and they were like, my dog has a big house full of hay, and they're warm in there, and people are still like, you need to bring that dog inside.
Yeah.
And I was telling Marcy actually today, I was talking to her and I said, I'm just going to be honest. These people got a bunch of pussy dogs. I said, you think about it. I said, dogs actually kind of, you're the vet here. Didn't they kind of come from wolves?
Oh yeah, they totally. And I mean, I think like, is anybody worried about all the coyotes that are going to be out there?
I was going to say, should we bring them in the house?
They don't even have a doghouse.
And they don't even have hair, half of them. They're mangy things.
Well, I don't know. I mean, hell, I'm sitting here as a vet. I'm going to tell you, I got 3 cats that I'm allergic to cats. They will not be in my house at any point in time over the next week.
Yeah.
How can you be allergic to cats?
I'm not like deathly allergic, obviously, but like if one's in the house, because like my mother-in-law has a cat, if we go to her indoors, and so if we go to her house, like I can tolerate it for just usually my window is about 24 hours, and then it's like, even if he doesn't get in my lap, but I'm just in that house. But yeah, my cats, I mean, they got the barn, like they can curl up, they got hay, they can go wherever they want in the barn, and we'll, like when it gets down to single digits, we'll close doors on either end
and
of
shut
the
them
barn.
out of the barn so they can't get in there.
Right, yeah. I'll shut the doors, then I'm going to catch the cats and throw them outside.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Get them out of there.
But then there's another couple of barns that I don't know. I'll just have to be sure they don't go in there either.
Yeah.
But no, which actually the cats, and this may piss off all sorts of other people, they'll have a heyday because all the little songbirds will be like swarming the barn once you get some snow, trying to pick around and find something to eat.
They're catching them.
It's like it's like shooting fish in a barrel for those cats. Even my dogs, when it gets super cold, birds, my dogs will be catching birds. I'm like, what the hell? Like, so yeah, cats probably enjoy this cold weather.
Yeah. Well, I just got a kick out of that. I almost shared it on Facebook and wrote something funny, but I was like, I'm not going to.
Nice.
But
just stir the pot.
Yeah, I thought about it. Well, man, you got an extensive ag background. I mean, you've been in the ag thing for pretty much all your life.
All my life.
So tell us a little bit about how that started.
Well, both my grandfathers farmed, and it kind of skipped a generation. And I used to laugh. One of my grandfathers and I were really close. And he told me, he said, I worked hard my whole life to send my kids to college so they could get a better job and they wouldn't have to do this. And I'd be damned if you didn't go to college to learn how to farm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to that statement, too.
Where'd you go?
I went to UT Martin, majored in ag business, and with a minor in economics.
Yeah.
And then I got out, and I was a farm manager for a group out of Dyersburg. They farmed some land in Lauderdale County in the river bottom.
Back up. What is a farm manager?
Basically, you farm for them.
Okay.
They pay you, and I ran the day-to-day operations. I did everything except for the money.
Yeah.
You know, we worked together and decided what we were going to plant, how we were going to plant, where we were going to plant. That worked really good. You know, my wife and I started having children. It was kind of like, hey, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work this hard for myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I listen to the podcast and I hear a lot of people talking about, you know, people sending in questions like about young guys trying to start farming. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And I will say I started farming in the late 90s on my own. And, you know, I think you and I have talked about this, Logan. I said at that time, one of the biggest drawbacks to getting into farming was financing. You know, there was not a lot of, I mean, you had to seek financing from like FHA or whatever. You know, whereas today, I think one of the biggest barriers to getting into farming is land.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can get, I feel like nowadays you can get financing. There's all kinds of places.
And I mean, you know, and it's the external financing at the dealership, I mean, you know, at the retailers and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And that wasn't available at that time. So my wife and I started a small farming operation and I left being a farm manager and went to work at a ag retailer at the time because I needed insurance.
Yeah.
You know, starting a small young family, it was very important.
Now, was Terry teaching at the time?
No, she was actually working at a cotton gin over in Haywood County.
Okay, gotcha.
And she had the same background. She was ag business major. And we were farming. I left the ag retail and went into the actual equipment industry for a while. And that was in the early part of 2000s. It was, the ag economy was just pretty well in the dumper. I mean, you know, commodity prices were low, and about kind of what we're facing right now. You know,
it's all cyclical.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you go back and look at the charts, you know, the economist in me comes out, and you go back and look at the charts, and it does
ebbs and flows. Yeah,
it does, and you know, so. Terry started teaching school, and they offered me an opportunity to come teach school, and I was like, man, I never thought about teaching school in my life.
Yeah.
But it's a good, stable income.
Yeah.
And at the time, you know, the ag economy was not. So we got out of farming, sold our farming operation, and we both taught high school ag I taught for 12 years, and she's still teaching. I think she's in year 20, 21 or something.
Really?
Yeah, she's been doing it for a long time.
Man, that's awesome. I knew she had been in it a while.
She's got a lot more patience than what I do.
Yes.
You know, but I mean, and I tell people, like, oh, you taught school? And I said, look, I taught shop.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, with my background in the ag world and machinery and stuff, it was more production and hands-on learning and that kind of stuff. When my oldest one graduated from high school, I said, you know, when I got into education, I never really thought I was going to do this for the rest of my life. I was always still involved in farming in some way, you know, through some different things. And I got out, and the hard, cruel world that's out there, you look at, and I was 45 years old and said, hey, I want to get back in the industry. Well, that's not as easy as you think it is.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, oh, you hear those saying you're overqualified? Well, I don't think I was overqualified, but a lot of places think you are.
Yeah.
Because an entry-level position at somebody at 45, and I did go back and get my master's in ag, with that type of education, they look, well, we're going to have to pay you this, and I can get this kid just out of college, and I can pay him this.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was, so I had, some acquaintances that I knew that I got into the ag, you know, I call it the risk management part of it's, you know, I sell P&C insurance and I sell crop insurance and do some other things on some risk management, help to mitigate the risk of farming as best we can. Yeah.
Well, that, you know, I can remember, I guess whenever you started in the crop insurance and me and you talked and heck, I think I jumped on board with you pretty much right from the start. But, you know, it's funny. I think about crop insurance, and to me, it parallels a lot of farming in the sense that, you know, the struggle for, like, say, a young farmer or a new farmer is picking up ground. It's not a lot different when you're entering the crop insurance world, because if a guy has been farming, more than likely he already has crop insurance. So, like, how do you kind of navigate that?
You try to build service. You know, I mean, we all. It's no secret. The federal government regulates crop insurance. Yeah, it regulates what I can make. It regulates the price you pay. Everything. So I can't sell.
I didn't realize it regulated what you can make.
Well, I mean, it regulates our commission. What our commission rate is on it. So what I sell to, you know, the price I give to you is the same that everybody can give you. Yeah. I can't come in here and say, look, I can sell this to you cheaper. So it's a service-based industry. Yeah. And we try to pride ourselves on the knowledge that we have. And I guess, you know, one of the things that I try to do is I come in there with a knowledge of, hey, I know where you are. Yeah. And we try to pair some things with it's not just, hey, I sell crop insurance. We're going to do a risk management. We're going to try to help you look at what you're doing, whether it's a crop mix, whether it's, you know, inputs. And, you know, I don't do the financing part, but I have some people that I can put you in touch with. Yeah. I tell people all the time that I know a guy. You know, you need this help, I know a guy.
It's good to know a guy.
It is.
Well, I don't know, man. It is funny. I remember whenever I got on with you, that year that you got into it, I think was the year that I had gone. I mean, I farmed the whole year. Yeah. You know, and I had crop insurance. But I go at the end of the year. That's back when I was still having to do a lot with FSA. And Mr. Steve Moffitt. Yeah. Man, I liked Mr. Steve a lot. Did too. But he was at FSA, and I went up there, and I'm doing my year-end stuff, and he's like, Logan, where's your crop insurance? And I said, I don't know. I had crop insurance here, and I'm not going to say the name, but I was like, I had crop insurance here. And he pulled it up, and he's looking, he said, and I was probably working at the time, I don't know, 300 acres.
Something like that.
And he goes, you only got insurance on like 100 acres. And I said, what? And he was like, man, yeah, you only had like 2 farms insured. And I said, well, damn. And it was a year that corn had been really bad. Yeah. My corn averaged like 105 or something. So, but it like barely would have skirted in. But I said, well, damn, I don't know what I'd have done. Cause and again, that was an issue where the guy that I had insurance with, I never even met him. Like, it was kind of a deal, like, when I got into it, that's who Dad and them had. And so he just kind of became mine, and he would just send me a letter and be like, sign this, fill this out, here's what you got. And then I would just send, and I didn't have a clue what insurance I had. And that's what, when you came and you were like, man, let me tell you what you got. Like, you know, me and Dad both were just like, wow. I mean, we had no clue.
So, I mean, and I entered to, you know, I was a little bit older, and I want to know what I'm selling. And I operate a little bit different, I think, than a lot of agents. I can't tell you what I make off of it. Yeah. I don't want that to drive what I sell. Yeah. You know, at the end of the year, we total it all up. Hey, I get my check, it's done. Because it's, you know, I want to always sell what's best for my customer. Yeah. You know, if that's a higher policy or that's a lower policy. And, you know, you got to sit down, and every operation's different. Yeah. You know, a young person starting out that doesn't have a lot, you know, they have a lot of risk aversion because they don't think they have a lot to lose. But, you know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Yeah. And then, you know, sometimes when people get later in life, they're like, hey, I've accumulated all this stuff. I want some protection on that side, you know, but I really don't know what I want or how to do it. Yeah. You know, and also a lot in this business is referral. And, you know, the only way to build referrals is the same as like in farming. How do you get more land? Well, you do a great job on what you're doing, because landlords talk and they say, you know, who works your farm? Oh, Logan works my farm and he does a great job. Yeah. It's kind of funny. You know, Bobby Lee and I do some stuff on the livestock side. I picked that up. I mean, I have not extensive livestock background, but I do have some livestock background, and I picked it up. A lot because a lot of agents are like, I don't want to fool with that because it's not a big commission driver. It's not a big, but it's the way I look at it is those doors open up to other doors.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and you never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to talk to and how that door's going to open.
You used to deal a lot with sheep, didn't you?
I did. My kids, when I taught school, we showed livestock, and the showing cattle is very expensive, and the little kids can't do that because they can, but it's harder.
Yeah.
So we got in the sheep game, and at one time we had about 60 head of sheep. That's a bunch of sheep.
I always wondered. I never had thought about the money in it, but I always kind of wondered why sheep was the big, like what you saw in a lot of the schools, and that makes sense. I mean, it's like goats out here. You can get goat cheap.
I mean, you can buy sheep. You can buy sheep relatively economically. It doesn't eat a lot.
Yeah.
And you can take care of it, and it's not really a money making thing. But you don't know. It's kind of hard to go to a parent and say, "Hey, I want you to spend $3,000," and
Yeah.
But if you can, say, "Hey, we're going to spend." 500 and we're going to do this, and you're going to get some of this money back, and then you sell it because show livestock is not profitable in raising and selling them for, it's pretty much you give them away because they're not real good to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Our dad always said sheep were like the dumbest animals on the planet. Like he used to talk about two things I've heard him say is they had the cattle panel fencing.
Right.
And he said a sheep would stick its head through it. And he said when its ears flopped forward and it would pull its head back and its ears felt resistance, it would just sit there. And he said if you saw them, all you'd have to do is walk over and you just could pull them right back in. But he said that little bit of resistance, he said sometimes if we didn't know one had kind of gotten off, he said you'd find a dead sheep and they would just have stood there till it died. And he also, I think he said, won't they not drink from running water?
I think you're correct. So I had a good buddy of mine, and we were doing a bunch of sheep and showing them whatever. He said a sheep, when they're born, they raise their head up and they look around looking for a place to die. I mean, and they are. But they're like I said.
People say that about horses too.
Yeah, absolutely. I
they're
was
born looking for a way to die.
I was in the horse business for a little while too, and I mean, it's no. I mean, horses had their time, and people that have them, God bless them. They serve their purpose, but
what is that?
To eat grass.
Yes. I'm a Bon Jovi guy when it comes to my thoughts on horses. There, people said I need one. The old song, "Wanted Dead or Alive," man. He says, "On a still horse I ride," and that's yes. What I think it was Kaylin one time. She was like, "You need to get some horses. You could ride back there in the pasture." And at the time, I said, I got a Honda Rancher that I can put some gas in. I can park that thing for months. Go out there. I can forget I even have this thing. Crank it up. It goes. When I give it the gas, it stops at the brakes. Like
you can go a few more places on a horse. All I would say.
So when my kids were little bitty, every kid wants a pony.
Yeah.
And we were teaching school, and we had kids that rode horses. They rode barrels and this kind of stuff. Dad, we want a horse. I said, I tell you what I'll do. I'll buy you a horse if you feed the dog every day for a month without me having to tell you.
Yeah.
To this day, I still do not own a horse.
Yeah, man. I don't know. How many horses y'all got?
Just 4.
4?
Yeah.
Do you ride much anymore?
Very sporadically. I will use, just like I was talking about, your horse will go places. Riding fences on our other farm. Checking fences,
yeah,
that's one time where it's like, all right, it really does pay to have a horse. Because I can walk them, but it's you're either doing it on horseback or on foot.
Do you got a way you can put barbed wire on there?
No, I'm pretty much just riding and checking, and then I'll, make mental note of.
I wonder, do they make like a leather thing you could put over a horse's back and put like straps some barbed wire to?
I mean, like if you were just patching here and there, what I would probably do is just take me, maybe 40 or 50 foot, coiled up. And they make all kinds of like little fencing tools, that are multi-purpose tools.
Yeah.
But mostly what I'm doing, because I can get close to most spots, within a few hundred feet with side by side, but I just can't see it all. And so I'll just make a mental note of where all the bad spots are, and then I'll come back and walk right, drive as close as I can to them, then walk in.
Yeah. I give horses hell because I just never been a horse guy. But I tell you what, I get like kind of they're very romantic.
Oh yeah.
And like you watch a show.
But here's a prime example. We're sitting here. It's coming a damn storm. My wife just texted me, "Did you let the horses out?"
Yeah.
That's what I've been kind of giving her and my daughter hell because they're the two that ride all the time.
Yes.
And I'm like, and every morning I clean stalls. I put horses up. I was like, I think you two have forgotten where the barn was.
Yeah.
Like I started giving him a hard time. And here I am. It's 10 o'clock at night. And my wife, I'm not even home. My wife's texting me if I did all my barn chores tonight.
So you should have tried the dog food trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. If y'all can feed the dogs for a month. Yeah.
But see, with my wife, like we're like, I mean, if I said it's me or the horses, I'd be finding another home.
It's funny, you and your brother both did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both married horse girls.
But see, and I will say, a mule is actually one thing I could kind of maybe see
Mules are
having
cool.
a mule.
They are really cool.
Which is great. I'm gonna give you two quotes, both from the same guy, and I was gonna make one earlier, but Dr. David Pugh, veterinarian, we're talking about sheep.
Yep.
He said sheep and goats. He said there ain't but two things that kill a sheep or a goat, and that's dogs and worms.
Yep, yeah. That's a fact.
And he said he said we vaccinate those dogs with the 223, and he said, and I'll tell you how to get rid of the worms because he would give you a parasitology plan for wild control because they are highly susceptible to parasites.
Yeah.
And then dogs, canines just in general, coyotes. I'm not promoting anybody shooting a dog, but if they're attacking your sheep, you do what you got to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But then he would also say, when it comes to horses, he said every horse has two assholes, one under the tail and one holding the lead rope.
That's a fact.
Yes. Yeah.
He wasn't even a professor at UT, but he would like kind of travel around. He had been at Auburn. I think he had left university and gone to work in the industry.
Yeah.
Dude, he is a character, like just a redneck country boy.
And he's one of the guys. Does he still work there?
I don't know. That's actually why I was looking him up to see where he is. I graduated school almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, he wasn't just like an old man, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if
He
he
wasn't
retired.
a spring chicken.
Yeah. And, but man, a character. Like anytime he came to talk, like I did not give a damn about sheep. But like, if he was given a small room to talk, and it was usually on parasites, you were going to go listen to him.
Just because it was entertaining.
Entertaining as hell.
Yeah.
Like so unpolitically correct. Like he didn't, and he gave zero shits.
Yeah.
Like, did not care.
When I was in high school.
I think that's probably why he wasn't in academia anymore.
Yeah.
Probably. When I was in high school, we had horses and we rode field trials.
Yeah.
Well, I've ridden in the national field trials. I've ridden in field trials all over West Tennessee and part of Kentucky. And it's pretty neat. I mean, it's something, back in its heyday, when I say its heyday, in the mid to late 80s and early 90s, you go over to Grand Junction and ride in the national field trial.
Yeah.
There'd be 500 people there riding.
Yeah.
You get off your horse and stand on the ground, you can feel the ground shake when the horses came by. And it's, like you said, the romantic side of it.
Yeah.
But it was so funny. So, you go over there and you ride for 3 hours at a time. That's what a brace is 3 hours.
Yeah.
And all these people from Memphis and places would come and bring their horses. And you would, they didn't condition their horses or have them ready.
Yeah.
And I mean, halfway through, they're having to pull off and, get trailers going to pick them up.
Horse about to collapse.
Yeah, because they couldn't make it. And you're like, what are you doing? And we were a bunch of old rednecks come up with, bumper pull trailer or whatever and getting them out. And, we were having to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I actually credit Yellowstone and those shows big time because those shows made everybody want to be a cowboy and a rancher.
Oh yeah, everybody wants to be John Dutton.
Yep, and like the horses and I mean and that's what I said. And there is something about it. I watched a show. Did you ever watch Unbranded? It's on Netflix.
Oh yeah, where they do the cross country trip.
I had the guy on Living Fully Loaded. Ben.
Ben Masters. Is that his name? Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
All right, this was pretty cool. Like, it was him and two other buddies.
No, there was more than that.
Was it more than that?
I think that may have been the only ones that actually finished it, but I think there were more than that.
Okay, it may have been. Yeah, But they
But it was
rode
4 or 5 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they rode across country.
Rode from Mexico to Canada.
Oh.
Horseback.
And it's on Netflix. It's called Unbranded.
I'll have to watch it.
Man, it is really awesome. And
it's one of those things like, and of course, immediately I'm like, yeah, I could never do that just because. I mean, you shouldn't have that attitude, I guess, but like, because it took them like 6 months. It may not have been 6 months, but it was a long trip.
Yeah. Wasn't it like 3,000 miles or something?
I admire their commitment. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, and
it
they
was
were
some
like
rough terrain.
They were like, they may have even quit college or dropped out temporarily to do it, but they were like early 20s, early to mid 20s. But man, yeah, it was. Oh, it makes you want to do it. And
it's just.
But a lot of it had to do with like the wild Mustangs, and that's what they used Mustangs. That obviously have been caught and broken, and used them for it.
Ben, that was kind of the start of his, because he's a documentary filmmaker at this point. Okay. And because his other one, that when I had him on the show, his show about Texas had just come out, like all the wild Texas wildlife, because they have like the most bizarre array of wildlife.
Absolutely.
But like I said, Unbranded, I'm not a horse guy. Like I said, I always, even your dad, me and him, like I would give him hell. Like we'd talk about horses, and he'd be like, man, he would always, he was not particularly a horse guy.
Well, he's kind of the same position as me. He gets tasked doing a whole hell of a lot of barn chores.
Yes.
And he don't have crap to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd always mess with him about it. But I actually really enjoyed watching Unbranded, because
that was an awesome. I'm trying to remember if my kids watched it with me, but it was one of those like they got a little bit of cussing in it, and whatnot. It's funny because that's a bunch of dudes on a cross country trip, takes months. They get in a couple of fights. And,
emotions flare.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, but
they're in some storms, like bad weather. And stuff.
They I remember they made it to, I believe it was Jackson Hole for the 4th of July. And, like they would stop some places and like stay in a cabin or whatever. But a lot of it was, they were backcountry camping in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, I don't know. Yeah. This one of them video or movies I watched. I'm like, yeah, man, that would have been cool to do.
Oh yeah.
Well, you talk about, we were talking about the weather earlier, and I always laugh because there's a lady that I work with that breeds and raises quarter horses.
Yeah.
And I tell her, I say, whenever there's bad weather coming in, I say, anybody that's ever had or raised livestock hates the snow.
Yes.
Especially in the South, and we were talking about it the other day, because I am in the insurance industry, and like last December we had this brutal cold spell.
Yeah.
And man, it was terrible. People's pipes busted. It was all god awful. And, of course, we have this cold spell coming up, and everybody's, we're not made for this weather. Of course, we're not, we're not conditioned for this because we don't ever have it.
Yeah.
But our houses are not designed for this, because we don't go through. Now, this one's hopefully not going to be as bad because it's only supposed to be a day or two. But when you go 2 or 3 days in a row that it does not get above freezing, that's terrible.
Well, that's like, I got some buddies that live in Montana.
Right.
And they like to give us hell because, like, if it snows here or something, schools get out. Like, if it looks like it's going to snow, the schools are canceling. And they're always like, man, you guys. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not built. I'm like, if it was 100 degrees with a heat index of 120 in Montana, you'd be dying. Y'all would be dying out there.
Don't like, I've heard of people that gone like up in Montana and Wyoming stuff. They don't have air conditioning. Yeah. They don't need it. It gets hot a few days out of the year.
I did feel, and I've shared this with Bobby Lee, but like it was funny. When I went to Winter Strong a couple years ago, it was in South Carolina in February. And their weather's pretty much just like ours for the most part. And it was like 30 to 40 degrees. It wasn't that cold, but 30 to 40s. But it was wet and kind of raining. Yeah. And there was a bunch of people from all across the country there. And there was some people from Montana. And the dude's wife, she was bitching about how cold it was. And I said, y'all are from Montana. I said, I figured this was a cakewalk. And he goes, man, this cold is different from our cold. He said, this cold cuts through your clothes. He's like, it hurts.
It's that moisture.
Yeah. I was having this exact conversation with somebody the other day because I've had that same conversation with people out there. Yeah, they'd be here this time of year and be like, "Oh, I bet this is nothing for y'all," and they're like, "No, this is just different." You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just all our humidity, all the moisture in the air. Yeah, because it's so dry out there. You know, they get 18 inches of rain or something a year. And
So when I was a lot younger, I worked at a shooting preserve, and we used to have these big groups come in, and it was this big corporate group coming in, and it was a guy from Canada.
Yeah.
So he comes out, and it's probably 45-ish. You know, it's cold enough that you had a light, some of them had heavy coats on, but like a light jacket, because we were quail hunting, and it was on a shooting preserve and whatnot. This guy comes out, say 45 degrees. He's got like a polo short sleeve shirt on. He goes, springtime. And we're like looking at him, and he goes, he said, this is great. Because, it was a sunshiny day, but it was cold. And I was like, where are you from? Canada. And I said, it is springtime for you.
Yeah. 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 Cause they got some brutal cold. Cause that place is like, I think there's quite a bit of it that's just uninhabitable because of the weather.
Their summer's like 10 days.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
It's like a long weekend.
Well, I don't know if, I know y'all are both big hunting people or whatever, and I don't watch him a lot, but like Jim Shockey, you watch Jim Shockey, and it's like he goes on all these, the tundra and all. It's like in September. And, they got not heavy garb on, but they're, pretty well. I'm like, man, I'd be dying in September. And it's like 45 degrees up there in September.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, and here in September, you're like sweating your balls off. Like it's still
so
hot as hell. Man. So what, do you miss the farming, or did crop insurance, like, how does that parallel?
Well, yes, I think, when I quit farming, I had a guy, an older man, one day we were talking about it, and I asked him, I said, he had retired, and I asked him, I said, do you miss farming? He said, no. And I was like, man, I do. And he said, no, you miss the good things.
Yeah.
He said, you don't think about when it's 100 degrees and you're having to beat a barren off, or, you're having to do this or do that, or you're going to the bank. He said, you don't, you put those thoughts out. So I've always kind of tried to live that, but I've been so involved in agriculture. The parts I don't miss about farming is, October rains, and you're trying to get a crop out, and it's raining, and you're worried, is it going to beat my beans out? Or I farmed a lot of cotton, it's going to string my cotton out, or it's going to do this. I don't miss those parts. I miss the parts of, and I can kind of get my fill of those. I can come out here and ride the combine with you and hang out with you, or I can do this with my customers. I enjoy working with farmers and and talking to them. And, I sell, we sell crop insurance, and that's where I make some of my money. But it's, I like to, like I said, we do a risk management thing. I like to be able to sit down with you and say, hey, man, I just really don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And we have some technology that's available. My home office is in Starkville, Mississippi, so they have a good, strong relationship with Mississippi State. So we have some software and stuff. I was listening, I told you, Logan, the other day, I was listening to the podcast y'all had with Justin Payne on there, and one thing that I'll completely agree with him, and I think we're in its infancy in agriculture, and my generation is getting past the information and the data set.
Yeah.
It is going to be so important, efficiency and managing what we use and looking at our rate of return and doing this and doing that, not just going out there and saying, oh, I think we need to do this because so-and-so does it down the road. It's time to spray, we all laugh and funny, you see on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, it says, oh, it's time to spray. The neighbor's got the sprayer out. Well, manage your operation, because that's your operation. Your operation is unique to yourself. And to be able to sit down and work with farmers and look at that and say, okay, let me see if I can help you.
Yeah.
How do we mitigate the risk? And it's not always about buying crop insurance. It's like, hey, what crop mix do we look? Hey, I need to raise some corn. Corn prices are down. But I really do need to raise some corn, because if I raise all soybeans, I'm going to max out my combine, and I'm going to be not being as efficient as that.
Yeah.
So let's look at it, and let's look at your APHs that you've had over the past 3 or 4 years. Let's look at what we're going into. It's not so much on the agronomy side, but it's looking at, hey, how do we maximize what we're doing and minimize our risk while doing it?
Yeah.
And that's fun and it's enjoyable. I still get, because of my background, and I still get some calls. Hey, can you come help me fix this? And yeah, I've got one customer that has some older Case IH equipment, and this past summer boy called me and I was rebuilding the rear end on one of those big tractors with him, and he was like, "Did you not do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, unfortunately, yeah." But on the other side of it, some guys call me and say, "Hey, look on the agronomy side," and one of the things that I will say is we need to look at, and we need to make kind of a paradigm shift is to look at and see what we're doing and how much is, rate of return.
Yeah.
How much return on investment are we getting here? If I'm putting this out here, yeah, it may work. It may give me 2 or 3 extra bushels. But are those 2 or 3 extra? Yeah. Is it, in the time and the wear and tear? It's the same thing on the livestock side. Bobby Lee and I do some stuff, and we did, actually, Drew was my first customer this year that will actually draw money off it. It's called LRP, Livestock Revenue Protection. So buying the stocker cattle, it gives you that security. And I'm not going to say that crop insurance will never say I'm not going to lose any money.
Yeah.
But it can mitigate your risk to where you can say, I can stand to lose a little bit. I just can't stand to lose a lot.
Yeah.
So, and the LRP does that. It gives you security to go in there and say, hey, I'm going to go buy these, I'm buying X number head at this price. I'm going to need to sell them at this price.
Yeah.
In order to not go broke, And it's not say I'm going to insure a profit. I'm insuring not to go broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to lose my farm.
Yeah. And that's, honestly, it's funny. I think, kind of how we talked about early on, when I first got with you on the insurance, I didn't even know what I had, and I actually ended up having very little.
Right.
And I would actually say, I bet you a lot of your farmers, they don't know shit about their crop insurance. Like, it's just something we know, like you got to have crop insurance.
Right.
Like if you do any dealing with FSA or any of them, they require you to have crop insurance. And so, like, if you sign your farms up for the programs like ARC or PLC or any of that, you got to have crop insurance. And I mean, most guys, myself included, just don't know a damn thing about crop insurance.
Well, and I will say this, in our area, crop insurance is never really played a big part because we rotate our crops so much.
Yeah.
So like crop insurance is kind of, and I laugh and say this, it was designed for the Midwest. We've got 30 years of corn records here. We got so many, bean records, whatever. And we have a hard time making a good yield.
Yeah.
And ensuring a good yield. You say, oh, I made 180 bushels on this, but your APH may be 120.
Explain that for people that don't know what APH is.
So APH is, and crop insurance is full of acronyms. So we're going to come over to APH. But it's actual production history.
Yeah.
So for crop insurance, you've got to have at least 4, but they're going to take 5 years, your last 5 years of production. All right. So if you don't have 4, they're going to give you they're going to give you the county average, or
which is terrible.
Which is terrible. Or they'll call it a T yield. So, and the longer you've been in farming, the less your T yield is.
Yeah.
So as a beginning farmer, you might get 100% of T.
Yeah.
But as you replace, so I don't have any corn yield, but I've been farming for 5 years, so I'm going to get 4 years worth of T yield, and I may only get 75% of those T yield.
Yeah.
So that's saying, let's say the T yield is 100 bushels for corn. Well, you're going to get 75 bushels.
Yeah.
So you may have had 180 bushels 1 year, then 2 years later, or in between, 175 bushel. So then you get 2 years of T yields of 130, 140.
Yeah. Why have they just not updated the county average? Because like this past year, it was last year when we had the year before last when we had the terrible corn, the drought, and the corn was awful. My corn averaged like 83 bushels, but in the part that kind of hurt me was, I didn't have like 4 or 5 years of consecutive corn yields. Like some of them I had 3 years, but I just didn't have enough. And so I had to use the county average, and the county average was like 100 bushels.
100 bushels. And then so you buy crop insurance on levels. It's a percentage of your yield.
Yeah.
So let's say you have 100 bushel yield and you buy 75%.
So isn't 70 to 75 pretty standard?
About standard, and it's a cost versus, what we're looking at on protection wise. Because when you get above 75, it gets kind of costly.
Yeah.
We're trying to maximize the subsidy. Bobby's favorite word, Bobby Lee's favorite word, government subsidy. We get the government involved in this. So we're trying to maximize our subsidy and minimize what we're having to pay. Because that's that's what it is. So 70, 75. Now you go up in the Midwest, there's a lot of 80, 85% coverage.
Really?
But they have 200 bushel corn, 300 bushel corn, and their premiums are less than ours because, it's just, and you're like, why? Because I'll never forget, the year you're talking about, you called me and you said, hey, my corn's not looking that great. And I went, okay, well, what do you think? And you said, man, I just don't think it's going to be that good. What do I do? I said, well, we're going to file a claim.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't know if it's going to be that bad. And I said, we still will file a claim.
Yeah.
And that way we have the baseline started, and they'll start working your claim, and then you're going to harvest it, and then we'll see where it falls.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what do I need to do? I said, the same thing you always do. Just keep up with your records, and, same as we always do. And at the end of the year, you'll have an adjuster that comes out, and he'll work with you.
Yeah.
Now, and so it's ways to do that. And, like I said, not calling any names and not, because when I started in this industry, I never want to be one of the guys that's going to come and bash somebody else. It's like, there's some great crop insurance agents out there.
Yeah.
But there are some that, like you said, you'd be surprised at how many people I'll talk to, and I'm like, hey, who does your crop insurance? Oh, I got some guy up there from Laverne.
Yeah.
I'm like, Laverne, Tennessee? And they're like, yeah. The co-op here for a while had a kind of a program that they partnered with this guy, but they don't do it anymore. So I just stayed with this guy, and I went, so when do you see him? Oh, he comes down about once a year.
Yeah. And they may not even can tell you his name.
They can't. A lot of them they can't, and it's like, oh, well, and I'm like, well, if you're satisfied with that, okay, but if you ever need anything, just give me a holler, because I'm not that guy. I may not talk to you every day, but we'll talk. I'll try to talk to most of my customers once a month, especially during the growing season. Hey, how's it going? What is it looking like?
Yeah.
I'll send out text, hey, let me know if you're having any problems planting, getting stuff what you wanted planting, doing this and doing that. And trying to stay in touch and stay in contact, because you're right. Most people have no idea. They have no idea what's available to them.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And they'll come and say, well, you'd be surprised. Okay, come on. Man, I was going to get all this corn planted, but I didn't get it planted. You still got time. What? I said, well, the cutoff date for corn in Tennessee is June the 4th.
Yeah.
What? I said, yeah. It's 2 weeks before that, actually. But you can plant it on a late planting period, and you still get it insurable up to that point. And they're like, oh, I'm not planting it that late. I'm like, well, I'm not telling you have to plant it that late. I said, you can plant it up to that late.
Yeah, you can and still get it
insured.
Yeah.
And, it's like, well, nobody ever told me that. And I try to tell people, I said, okay, here are your plant dates, here are your harvest dates, whatever, and we got to get this done. And it's because we have not the greatest yields.
Yeah.
Because of the tea yields and some of the different things like that. You got to work a farm in West Tennessee for a long time to build 5 years worth of corn data.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That is, yeah, because, like for me, a lot of times I'll do 2 years of beans, 1 year of corn.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how I rotate. And every now and then I got some that I'll go corn, bean, corn. Like I'll just keep rotating. But even then, like you're talking 10 years.
10 years.
And
10 years.
This is my 10th year farming. So like this year I might have some farms that will make it.
And what I tell people is the thing that you don't understand is look at where we were 10 years ago on some of these yields.
Yeah.
The agriculture industry is constantly, we're getting so much better. We're getting so much more efficient. We got better varieties, better, techniques and stuff that we use.
Yeah.
That and there's some programs that we can exclude some yields from, way back. If you have better yields, and we can exclude some years and do some things like that.
Yeah.
Like, last year you said you had, or 2 years ago you had 80 bushel yield.
Yeah, let's exclude that one.
You can exclude it. We can come in there. Now, it has some costs associated with it.
Now, what would you do, because we got a lot of people that listen that are in the livestock world.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know anything about the livestock insurance. Like, how does that work? I mean,
Right, so
I know you just work with Bobby Lee. And
there's a couple of different policies that are done for livestock. So the first one that Bobby Lee and I got, when I kind of started doing, was called PRF, Pasture, Range, and Forage.
Yeah.
It's basically a rainfall insurance. And you think, what do you mean a rainfall insurance? So if you don't get adequate rainfall on your pastures, you're going to have to buy feed, or you're going to have to, because you're going to be cut either your grazing or your hay production.
Yeah.
So what it's done is it's done in grids, and they have grids all across the United States, and wherever your farm is located, not where you live, where your farm is located is within that grid. Then they have several different weather stations, and I'm gonna call it triangulate, but they call it some other big word, where they take information. It doesn't matter how much rain it rained at your house or on your farm. It's in that grid. They average the rainfall in that grid. So when you average rainfall on that grid, if you fall below average, and it's 90% of the average, so if you average 10 inches of rainfall, and it's done in 2-month intervals.
Yeah.
So, and you draw an indemnity, and it's supposed to help. The risk part of it is, hey, I'm supposed to, if it gets this dry, then I'm either going to have to be feeding hay, which I heard Bobby Lee talk about, on his New Year's thing. He's actually fed more hay than what he thought he was going to have to, because it was so dry in early part of the fall here.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's going to increase his cost. So we're going to offset some of that cost with the risk management side of saying, hey, we have the rainfall insurance.
Gotcha.
If you're selling hay, your hay production was down, or whatever it may be, because you had lack of rainfall. Then there's another policy that's out there, what we talked about earlier, is called a LRP, Livestock Risk Protection.
Yeah.
What it does is it goes off, you can buy it for a set period of time. So you can do it, it's several different, when you go to do a quote, it's like 10 pages long.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So it's like, you buy them by the number of head or how many pounds you're going to have. So you can do it up to like one head, if you really, 5, 10, I think, most time we do truckload quantities for 50, or whatever.
You're 50,000 pounds.
Right. And you look on there and you say, okay, I'm going to buy this, and I'm buying these cows or these calves or whatever, and I'm buying them in March. And I'm going to buy them from this price, so I'm going to sell them in October. So you do the number of days. It's, I think 120 days, whatever it is.
Yeah.
120 days from there, and what is the price going to be at 120 days? And you can buy up to 99% of that price. And the lower percentage you go, the lower it costs you per head.
Gotcha.
And so you're kind of insuring. If the market falls below this price, then they're going to pay you the difference between what the market was at that date that you said I'm going to sell them, or I'm going to end the term, and what it actually was.
Yeah.
So if it falls below that, and you say, hey, I need to make $1.75 a pound to break even. So it falls to like $1.65, they're going to pay you 10 cents difference on however many pounds you have.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if it had 50,000 pounds, so it's like, and it's.
I've heard people describe it, in which I don't really understand everything that goes into buying a put, but.
Right. It's kind of a subsidized put.
Yeah. And that's.
Okay.
The LRPs, I mention it on here all the time. I listen to Corbett Wall 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. He actually has a bunch of insurance guys, some of your competitors, nobody in this exact area, but that advertise for the LRP, and he'll tell everybody, like, you ought to be buying an LRP, because it's subsidized. But apparently here, I think his quote with some of the figures, like in 2017, it was something ridiculous, like how few cattle were signed up under it.
Right.
Versus like today, it's like just grown exponentially. And you got some really big operators that are kind of abusing the system, which is like, anytime you got a system that's getting some money kicked in, you're going to have people
absolutely
figure out how to.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, I laugh because I've heard it on here. Like, oh, that guy, he's a crop insurance farmer. I'm telling you, if somebody is farming for their crop insurance, they're quickly going broke.
Yeah.
Because it's not a money maker.
Yeah, because could you pay for 100% coverage?
No, I think the highest you can go is in the 90s.
That'd be expensive as hell.
Oh, it's super duper expensive.
Yeah. How substantial of a difference is it from 75 to 85?
A lot.
Isn't that like a per acre cost?
On a per acre cost. I mean, that just for, I'm going to say, say like if you're paying $7 an acre for 75%, 85% would probably be like 27.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is substantial.
The subsidy goes backwards.
Yeah.
It's not subsidizing as big a portion of it as it would be, and that's that's the thing that so many people lose sight of. It is the when USDA, whatever you want to call them, federal government did away with the farm subsidy program, they channeled a lot of that money over into the crop insurance program.
Yeah.
And a lot of the NRCS programs. And good, bad, or indifferent, whatever your mindset is, that's where the subsidies are. And they're trying to mitigate risk in the same way as they were doing subsidies.
Yeah.
We're going to help you do. Now, a lot of people say, oh, we missed the good old days where you're getting the farm payment. I can tell you from the time that I farmed in, the late 90s and early part of 2000, when we got a subsidy payment, this is from the outside looking in, and I have several customers in the ag industry. It's a lot better now than what it was then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It's funny too, because people today still think that farmers get huge subsidy checks.
I know.
Like that's what, we get good, like on the insurance side, the government subsidizes like a large percentage of that. But it is hilarious how many people think we still are getting, like I remember when I was in high school, you could look online and you could see
EWG, Environmental Working Group.
Yeah, and a lot of guys, they were getting like there was some cotton payments. It was $250,000. They were getting $250,000, and there's still people today, like you see it all over Instagram, Facebook, that still think farmers are just getting $250,000 check here, like 250. They think it's just like handing it out, and it's like for the most part, that's not happening anymore.
It is not, and the subsidies on the crop insurance, yes, you reap the benefit on the risk protection, but that is no money in your pocket.
Yeah.
So, and you really hope, just like your insurance on your truck or your house,
that you don't need it.
You hope you never have it.
I think the year we had the drought 2 years ago was the first time I'd ever made a claim.
Yeah, it was. And your dad and them, they had a claim the year, not the Big River huge year, but there was a year that y'all went down the river bottom and planted corn, and the water came up and covered it. And I'll never forget, I was sitting there with your dad, and he's like, it's about 10 acres of it left out. And I went, Tim, you don't want to keep it.
And he did. And then when we harvested it, he said, damn, I should have not kept that corn. It averaged like 100 bushels.
It was terrible.
It was.
And I was like, Tim, you don't want to keep it. I promise you. I said, it's been,
Well, we also killed like half of it too, because he had planted two different varieties.
Yeah.
And because I think I was the sprayer operator for him at the time, and we did not realize one of the varieties was not stacked on all of it that it could handle, and we sprayed Liberty because there were some monster pigweeds that had come through in there, and we jump in there and I sprayed Liberty over this corn. And man, Dad was going down there, I think, with like the adjuster, and he said he rounded the corner. And it was there was the cornfield. Half of it was brown, the other half was green, and it was like a clear defining line down there.
Yep.
And it was, right where we sprayed and changed varieties, it killed the hell out of it.
So it's funny, and you talking about that, when the dicamba issue came, and, we had drift, and we had the beans get all messed up. You don't know how many people called me and said, oh, my beans got dicamba damage, whatever. And I said, That's a liability insurance issue, not a crop insurance issue.
Yeah.
I said, it's, we're, act of God type thing.
Yeah.
Some fire and stuff, but it's mostly, weather or lack of that you insure for it. But it's a wonderful tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Just like a good agronomist, just like a good seed guy, just, is a tool in your toolbox. Crop insurance is that tool, it's to help mitigate the risk. Like I said, to help you, are you going to make any money off crop insurance? Probably not. But are you going to, if you got it put in the right place, they're not going to line your shit up to sell either.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we've neared the hour, but I want to ask you before we wrap up. We'll have to have you back on for sure. But I want to ask you before we wrap up, what advice would you have to a new guy getting into the industry? Ag industry, farming, whatever. What kind of advice would you have for him?
Well, and if you want to get involved in production agriculture, my advice is to find you a farm to go to work. If you're not born into a family, or marry into a family, I should say, find you a guy out there, and if you say, hey, this is what I want to do, go to work for that guy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, if you're willing to work, there's a lot of farmers out there that'll say, hey, you come to work with me, and I'll try to help you find some land, get some land, or maybe as I start easing myself out, you can take over what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the succession plan. Their kids are like, no, I don't have anything to do with it. And there's a lot of guys out there that are that way.
Yeah.
And if you're a young guy and you say, hey, I really want to do this, first of all, get out there and work and see if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think there's a lot of people that see it kind of like the horses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Farming's very romantic.
Yeah.
So
right. Who was the singer that sang, my John Deere tractor, and everybody said, everybody sees farmers, whatever. A lot of things that what people don't see in animal agriculture, they Yellowstone. Yeah. And they see all these beautiful cows and all this, and they're riding horses. They don't see when after it's in a wet winter, and you go find the calf that got smashed into the mud around the hay ring.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't
get the phone call at 1 a.m. that they got cows out.
The cows out on the road,
down.
and it's, or that you don't go out there and find the 2 or 3 day old baby that the coyote's got a hold of, and or the calf that's the heifer that, or new mama that's down, and the coyote is eating her back end out because she got down trying to have a baby and she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So we romanticize. Same with farmers. Everybody posts those pictures on Facebook and TikTok and whatnot of the beautiful sunsets and what I get to see, and
that's social media in general.
Absolutely.
That's why I post the busted trailer on Highway 88.
Well, I mean, and they, that's part of it too. I mean, it's just, but if you can find somebody, an operation that went to work, because, as with everybody in the United States right now, Bobby Lee and I've talked about trying to hire a vet when y'all were trying to hire a vet, how hard it was to get someone. Farming is the same way. And if you can get somebody that's good, that's willing to work, and we've got to find ways to entice those people to come to work for us. So, hey, maybe, we can do this, and you can start on some, start that away.
Yeah.
If you want to work in the ag industry, and I hate to say that, hey, you got to go to college, because you don't.
Yeah.
Certain, back to when Justice Payne was on here, he was talking about the agronomy side of it. It is so important to understand that. And if you don't have, you can go to, 2 kids that I taught in school, several of them work in the ag industry, but 2 kids that stick out in my mind that I taught in school. One of them's, she got her doctorate, and I'm going to butcher this, in entomology, bugs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And she works for Mississippi State Extension Service. She got her doctorate in there, and she studied, her background in the ag industry, her dad worked for boll weevil eradication. That's, had another kid whose granddad and them had some cattle and whatever, and he went to Barton and majored in ag business. Now he works for, I think it's Winfield Ag. They may have been bought out, the seed company.
Yeah.
So you can do that, but do you have to? I know a lot of kids that have gone through the technology school, the digital agronomy program, and they're working for Helena, they're working for co-op or those kind of things.
Well, in Helen now there's so much online school.
It is.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest, if technicians, which we call them mechanics, but if technicians, look, man, I know some guys that are mechanics. I'm going to call them mechanics, I'm old school, but they're making a bank.
Oh, hell, and they need them. They need them terrible.
Yes, because it's so specialized and stuff. It's kind of like I have a young guy that works at John Deere over in Brownsville, And I mean, he's making six figures.
Yeah.
Got a truck to drive, making six figures, and kind of, and insurance benefits, and he gets to do that kind of. The technology side is just growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And the data set, we say, if you're like being outside and like doing this, but you're kind of a technology guy, hey, that's the fields are endless. You just got to find the right way to get in.
Yeah.
And that's another part, because it's kind of like, oh, my dad didn't farm, so I can't farm.
Yeah.
A lot of that is true.
Yeah.
But there's some guys out there, say like me, if I still farmed, I have two daughters. Not to say if one of them may want to farm, but most of the time not.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a male-dominated. Not to say that women don't farm, because I have some, I know some women that are much better farmers than some of the men I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still a male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
So find that, and same on the livestock side. Now, it's not as big. West Tennessee, I mean, a sale barn would starve to death trying to sell all the cattle in West Tennessee. I mean, it's just not enough. I mean, so sometimes you can ease into it, but find you that operation or that guy that says, hey, I need some help, and you can learn from them.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be family. I guarantee you, I believe, there's times when he's doing fencing, and I know I've helped him and Drew both load cattle. It would be, hey, if I had a guy, a part-time guy that could maybe you and Drew could share to help pick up hay or move hay and do that, you get that experience.
That's what I got, a guy that listens to this podcast, and through this podcast, he realized that he lived close, and he reached out and was like, man, I just want to learn how to farm.
Yeah.
And he said, can I come help? And I said, man, yeah. And it helped him out. He's, he doesn't like to talk about what he does, so I don't like reveal it all, but he's in a very elite group in the military. Okay. And so I like to nerd out on that stuff.
Sure.
Because that's a lifestyle that I never got to live. Sure. So it's kind of funny, like the people that want to be farmers, they want to listen to farmers. I wanted to be like a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret. So like I like to listen to those guys. And so he has that world. And so when he reached out, he kind of gave me his background. I'm like, yeah, man, come on. And see, he's not from here, and he lives here. He's basically going to retire from the military. And then his plan is to move back home and farm. And I have been trying like hell. I'm like, dude, you got to stay. Like, I'm giving him hell. Yeah. I'm like, stay here, because he's super sharp. Like, I could put him in a sprayer. I could teach him to plant. Like, and I could confidently trust him to do these things. And that is hard to find somebody that I would 100%. Be comfortable doing that with.
Well, I mean, okay. So, and I mean, you got to relate the dollar to what it was. But back when I was in high school, I mean, tractor may have cost $25,000, $30,000.
Yeah.
Which was still a lot of money at that time, but now they're cost $500.
Oh, God, yeah.
I had
$1 million.
I had a customer buy a new sprayer the other day. He traded his sprayer. A new sprayer is $550,000.
I was going to say, sprayers are terrible.
$550. He traded one, and I'm not saying his name, so I'm not giving it. So he traded one that he bought 4 years ago for $350,000. 4 years ago, and the one he traded on was $550,000.
Yeah.
So $200,000 in 4 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and I mean
nuts.
But when we did the math, because of the trade-in value, because basically what he traded his in for is what he bought it for. So he ran it for
Those
that many
notes
years.
Probably kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, notes kind of stayed the same.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a lot of help. So what he does is he keeps new equipment, and he runs his operation not based on overall equipment cost. It's a cost per acre.
Yeah.
What does it cost me per acre to run this machine?
Well, and not to drag us out, but like that's one of the things that is my hardest struggle is cost per acre on equipment, because my operation's grown, which is good. It's a good problem, but I have bought better equipment because I want to be efficient across those acres. So like, if I got a buddy that he worked in the marketing side on the ag, and he said the most profitable operations he saw, their equipment cost per acre was about $60 an acre. Mine is a hell of a lot more than that. Like, what is what are you looking for on that?
60 to 80.
60 to 80? Yeah. And that's what he said. He said 60 is like the most profitable that he sees.
But it's so hard to get to.
It is.
When you're starting off, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, when you're starting off, you're buying everything that's out there, and it's so hard to get that cost per acre down.
Yeah.
But it's, also, how do I say this? And it's not a tax reason why, it's a creative accounting why. How are they figuring their cost per acre?
Yeah.
Are they taking their payments? This is how much my equipment payments are, and I'm dividing it by the number of acres that I work.
Yeah.
Is that your cost per acre? Or is it are you including depreciation into this? There's a lot of that gets
factors
way over my head in the accounting side of how do you figure that. So and you and I've had this conversation. You'd be surprised at how many farmers that are out there. When I ask them, I was like, they're like, man, beans are $11. I just can't make it $11 beans. I said, okay, well, what's your break-even cost on them? I don't know, but it's higher than $11. It's like, well, how do you know how to market your crop
if you don't know
know what your cost is? Because your cost is different than mine.
Yeah.
And my cost is different than Bobby Lee's. I mean, it's the same with like the LRP size that we talked about with the cattle. Bobby Lee may say, hey, I can, I'm feeding all grass. I'm supplementing a little bit of grain towards the end to kind of finish them out, get them where I can get them in the pen, get them on the truck. So his cost is a lot different than mine.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to have such a level of protection that maybe somebody who's keeping them 60 to 90 days, supplementing with grain and feed, they got a lot more cost involved in them. So they're going to need, so it's those kind of things and you got to know. Cattle guys are a lot better at it than row crop guys. Row crop guys, well, how much, my favorite thing is, and I love it, and I'm going to say this about your dad, and with all of them, Mr. Dan, what do you think it cost you to raise the load? Go, oh, hang on a minute. He goes and pulls me out a sheet from Helena. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, this is it. And I said, well, have you, what about your other factors in there? And we got down to it, and it's kind of like, and then you divide it by, hey, this is what my normal APH is.
Yeah.
So this is what my cost per acre. And you'd be surprised that a lot of times people don't realize it's a lot lower than what you think it is.
Yeah.
But and it's like some other thing. But it's some of my most profitable guys, their crop input side, not the seed, chemical, and fertilizer, their fixed cost on equipment is a lot of time on the lower. They're running pretty lean, but they're running newer, bigger stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're farming 3,000 acres with a 60-foot planter and a combine with a 45-foot header on it.
Yeah.
And they're managing their acreage with corn and wheat and soybeans so where they can utilize that one combine more efficiently because, they go run through the season. They're cutting beans in the last part of August, first part of September.
Yeah.
And, but that's their risk management style. Now, I've also know some guys that are older, got some older equipment, it paid for, and they're doing pretty well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
they got like $40 an acre equipment cost.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you
fix shit?
They fix a lot of shit.
Yeah.
They still the old school to bring the shit into the shop, and right now they're working in the shop. This time you're rebuilding this and doing it. All right, so but their equipment costs, their repair cost is a lot higher than somebody else. But and a lot of times they don't have as many. But I just, I'm sure somewhere down the line somebody's paying the combine off.
Yeah.
But when you're buying a $600,000 combine that's used, how do you pay? How can you ever figure I'm gonna run this machine long enough to pay it off?
I don't know. It'd be so wore out by the time you do. Yeah.
What about a hay baler?
Yeah, I don't know. You need probably a lot more hay ground than me to make it make sense. So. I think about that often. Like, for all the money I've got tied up in doing my own hay, I could buy hay, and then not have any of that time tied up either.
Yeah, and you having windrows on the ground, and then it starts raining.
Oh yeah. There's that side of it too, that headache. But hey, we're having fun.
That's right. That's right. Well, you want to queue up our master in commander or whatever.
We got to figure out how to get him on the board.
We do. I don't think it's real hard, but I just haven't figured out how to do it yet.
All right, let me see if I can find him here. He's in here somewhere. He's in my favorites. He's my favorite.
He is
president.
your favorite president. He was the most popular president in U.S. history.
Yeah. All right.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America.
Oh, Made in America. Doesn't it just pump you up to hear that?
Just 2 words.
Yeah. He is a motivation. Like, he just motivates you.
I saw him on TV not too long ago, and I try to stay very middle of the road in politics, but I'm like, come on, guys, is this the best we can do in our country right now?
Yeah. Yeah. The best we can do is 2 80-year-olds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I saw
What about Vivek Ramaswamy or whatever?
How old is he? Is he 40, like 40 something?
I have no idea. He is out there.
No.
Dude. He gets, I like some of the stuff he's saying, but
I just don't trust him.
I don't know. He gets on a tangent and just goes. But anyway.
I like almost everything he says. He's damn vegetarian.
Yeah.
He's a vegetarian? Oh, man. If he ain't a beef eater, it's hard for me to think about him.
And I've actually some cattle people that have gotten to meet him and have talked about it. Right. He talks about how it goes back to his Hindu, religion.
Yeah.
And
they worship cows, don't they?
Yeah, and he's like, so, I can respect that, but I don't know. The more I hear him, the more I like him.
Well, I like what he says, but I just wonder, is he legit?
So I saw a poll on one of the network news. So you take it for what it's worth. But they were like, it was a huge number of the poll that they took said they don't want either one of them.
Yeah.
They don't want Trump or they don't want Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our political system that we're in is just shoving them to the forefront.
It is. Yeah, you can't get a third party in there. That's what I've always said. I wish a third party could get enough votes to get up there to at least debate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. But they'll fight that tooth and nail.
They will.
The Democrats and Republicans will. But
this looks very relevant to what's coming.
I believe it is. So, made by Farm Innovators. It's basically a water tank or a stock tank, water trough, floating de-icer. I've got one. I've used it for several years, and just in preparation for this winter storm we got coming, I grabbed another one just at the store the other day because they're not that expensive, and I was like, yeah, just something happens to one, but it's made in USA, so
and you can buy it locally.
Yeah. Yeah,
like Tractor Supply or somewhere?
I bought it at Stockdale.
Gotcha.
Yesterday.
Okay.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and I had no idea they were made in America. The one I have is because it's the exact same one.
Yeah.
But as I was looking at the box, like, holy crap, made in America. I was like, well, yeah, but yeah, I've used one.
What's it called?
It's just the one I've got. They call it a floating plastic tank de-icer.
Okay.
And they say plastic tank because it's safe to use in a plastic water tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just plug it in, and of course you got to have electricity there nearby, and just drop it in the water trough, and it doesn't heat it up to like boiling or anything like that, but just keeps it above freezing so the water stays open.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And kind of beats what you were talking about earlier, chopping ice.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Well, because that's I get a lot of questions like on YouTube. What do you do for your animals? I'm like, well,
he's like, well, I don't give a shit about them animals in the wintertime.
I mean, like, because we won't be calving. That is, unless because I got my father-in-law's cows. I don't really know when exactly a lot of those will calve, but I'm a month away from calving on my, original herd. So nobody's going to be having a calf. So cows should be fine. Even at single digits, even at sub-zero, they're okay.
Yeah.
Especially as long as they don't get like soaking wet, and then it drops, suddenly. Which looks like, that's what I was looking, those storms are going to roll through, but heck, tomorrow it's going to be like,
I was sweating today working on the Traco.
I was too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the high tomorrow is 55.
Yeah.
And next Saturday it's going to be 43, and then
the Arctic blast.
Then we don't get above freezing again after Saturday until
winter death.
Like Thursday. We go 4 straight days without being above freezing, but snow's not supposed to come in until like Sunday night, so they'll be dry before any more precipitation hits their back. So
yeah,
the animals, as far as the cold, should be fine. I just have to be sure. Even the ones that have the pond, because what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, we had that super cold stretch where it was like 10 straight days.
Yeah.
I did have a cow walk out across the pond and drown.
Really?
Fell through.
Oh, man.
And I've been chopping ice, for them to have a spot to water. But of course, I was just chopping a spot for them to water out of, and I wasn't going around the entire pond, so they couldn't walk out on there. And sure enough, I look out there one day and I'm like, looks like an open spot in the ice with something floating in the middle of it.
Dang,
sure enough, she made it all the way to right out there in the middle, and I guess it wasn't quite that solid out there and fell right through. So I will have to chop ice on the pond, but thanks to Farm Innovators and their water tank de-icers made right here in the USA, I will not have to do that on my water tanks.
Well, there you go. Well, check them out. William, thanks for joining us, man. It's been fun.
Thank y'all for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I said, we'll definitely have to have you back.
Man, we appreciate you coming. Appreciate you guiding us through the insurance world, both on air and in real life.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that I can do. I hope I give a little bit of information out there.
Yeah. Well, and if somebody listening, if you have a question and you'd like us to ask him, submit your questions.
You want to give out your cell number?
Yeah, can you give out your cell?
That's what everybody in the world has it. Yeah. Call Logan, he'll give it to you.
Yeah, call me and I'll give it to everybody. I'll put it on Facebook for everyone.
It is on Facebook.
But everybody, check out agzaga.com.
Yeah.
Use the code Talk Dirt, get your 10% off, whatever you need. Like we always say, go on there, browse around. Might be too late to get it in before the polar vortex or whatever hits us, but all the heaters and whatnot they've got. Like I mentioned, my brother's got one.
Yeah.
He's been using. But check them out. Whatever you need, they probably got it. If not, you can buy something you don't need too.
Yeah. Use code Talk
I looked
Dirt.
on there, and it's got a lot of stuff.
It does, man. It rivals Tractor Supply.
It does.
That's what
and they're a family-owned company. They've been in the ag retail industry for something like 60 years.
Yeah.
And not too far from us, just over in Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, y'all use the code Talk Dirt, all caps, all one word. And, guys, like I said, submit your questions, talkdirtpodcast.com, contact page, hit that like button, leave us a rating and review. And, like I said, man, thanks again for joining us.
Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, catch you next week.
Yeah, assuming we don't freeze to death. But
Yeah.
we'll be here.